All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a slightly delayed, slightly just, late episode of Speed Street. And there's a reason why. Doing a lot of things in life right now. I am at the Pastranaland campus here in Maryland, doing some incredible things with some incredible people. Very lucky to be here. So we have a bit of a late episode. So we have, thankfully, lots of news to discuss. We won't have a guest this week unless there are random people that just pop into the show as they walk by where I'm sitting. I'm in a beanbag currently, sitting in a beanbag. It looks like in a jail cell. There are bars behind me, but I am not in a prison cell with a beanbag in it. This is just to protect the windows, I guess, or protect from people trying to commit crimes or get into Pastranaland. I actually don't know. Or from people jumping out of the windows to do cool stunts. Who knows? But we are here. We have a lot of IndyCar news to discuss on this week's show, and we're going to preview Mid-Ohio. So hopefully you guys will enjoy this. This just intro to Mid-Ohio. We got the hybrid era in front of us here. There are some very helpful articles that we can point you to as well to learn about the article or to learn about the hybrid era. IndyCar has put out a recent couple social media posts as well about the hybrid. But Chase, how you doing, man? There's a lot of news this week, and there's a new driver for a coin yet again that we're going to learn about, and yeah, craziness, huh?
Yeah, I am. I'm just kind of catching my breath from catching up. It sounds like you have had an amazing weekend. I know I've been talking to you a little bit about what you've been up to, basically just living the dreams of America, baby, during the 4th of July week. So, you gotta love it. Can't wait to hear all about that. Yeah, I've been trying to keep my head above water, man. The news is just coming rapid fire right now.
Yep.
It's never been a better time. We've got a whole weekend coming up where we're going to be able to focus on a brand new engine of a car. I couldn't be more excited, and I can't wait to dive into Mid-Ohio, talk a little bit about that with you, and obviously make some picks and get ready for the weekend.
Yeah, so let's right out the gate. Let's talk about really the biggest news. It has been it has now been 0 days since a McLaren driver announcement has happened. I guess I didn't actually expect this one. I did hear a rumor about this one, but then I had heard that rumor was squashed. But this was this was kind of running around the streets a little bit. There was some chatter. There was some chatter, but Alex Rossi is now out of a seat. Alexander Rossi is no longer with the McLaren IndyCar team, which is, I feel like he's been leading the team honestly this year. So I'm a bit confused personally. I obviously like Alex; he's one of my best friends, but even from a results standpoint, I feel like the guy's doing pretty well. But he's being replaced by Christian Lundgaard. So Lundgaard is leaving Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing, going to McLaren. So if we have our McLaren driver board correct, our little maybe whatever, I hope it's a whiteboard and you can erase the names if you need to. But I believe the lineup is Pato O'Ward, Nolan Siegel, and Christian Lundgaard for next year. Now, would you put, if you were a betting human, would you bet that could change? Potentially. But right now, I like that is a strong lineup. I mean, Christian is a proven winner. I think he is very good. I do think that both him and Pato, those could be their guys. But I also now know, being an IndyCar fan, since I'm not in the driver's seat as much anymore, I don't really know what to expect, because I would have expected a lot more out of certain other drivers this year who have great chances with great teams. But we just haven't seen it. So very, very curious. What do you think, Chase? You obviously know Christian a little bit. We got to hang out with him. But that's a big opportunity.
Yeah, no, that's huge. And I think what it says to me more than anything is that McLaren, it's kind of like what we talked about when they got Nolan. You know, they're in this thing for the long haul. They're doing a complete refacing, if you will, this year. Kind of they're rebranding, big restructure. They're going younger. So I mean, it's I'd like to say I'm surprised, but maybe by the actual driver swap. Like I didn't see Rossi getting out of McLaren this year whatsoever. That wasn't in the cards for me. But now you got to look at, you know, he's made this move. He hasn't been here too long. You know, what's next for Rossi? Like, where does Rossi want to go? Is there something else that's going on? Maybe that we don't know about as far as his plans or what he's looking to do. But with the McLaren side of things, it just shows that they're in young win now mode. Like that's where they're going. They want that restructure, and they feel like maybe this is what they need to get that fresh start and get back on the haul. But I'm really interested in the Rossi side of this thing.
Yeah, now there was a great article on racer.com I was reading, potential options for Rossi, right? So I think, are people like, oh my gosh, where is he going to go? It's like, well, Alex is of that caliber that like he doesn't have to worry about. I think his dad is an incredible manager, clearly, and his dad has done a lot to put him in the right places. So I don't foresee it being a struggle. There was a couple interesting places that you might think of, but let's start right off the bat by a place that I was familiar with. Alex Rossi and Ed Carpenter own a plane together. So, you know, maybe Ed and Alex are flying through the skies together and saying, hey, like, maybe come over here. Now, I don't think I think Alex knows that he probably doesn't want to go there, but you know, maybe there's some conversations, maybe there's some friendships there that maybe that's a shadow that's happening. You know what I mean? Alex and Ed are very good friends, apparently. And yeah, there's something there. But a lot of people have linked Alex to Prema, the new team coming in. That one I mean, unless Prema is willing to pay Alex, you know, appropriately, and because Alex is a driver that, hey, like when you get in there, like when you get him in there, you got to get him paid appropriately because he's a champion, you know what I mean, an Indy 500 champion. So I'm very curious to see, you know, is there going to be an open seat at Rahal now? Does that interest Alex at all, or does Bobby Rahal stick with Yuri Vips? Like Yuri Vips has been at every race, kind of just waiting for something to happen or for someone to fall out of the seat or something. But, you know, you've got so many drivers running around now. Callum Ilott, David Malukas after this year. I mean, obviously, I think he'll probably end up at Shank still if that continues to go well. Coyne, Foyt. I mean, where do you go? I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to figure this out myself, but I have less power in my wallet or less power in my life. Not that Alex has to pay for a seat because Alex is a paid racing driver. But yeah, it should be interesting. A lot of people are saying Prema, but Prema isn't really a team yet. So that is going to have to be something that, you know, if Alex goes there as well, I feel like that would have to be a long-term deal with him because a new team's coming in. I think we've seen this with several new teams. It is not easy to get in and be successful early. Like they would have to be like, hey, Alex, we know this is going to take maybe 2-3 years to get to a winning level because, you know, we saw that with Carlin. It was difficult for Carlin for years to get good. And then they eventually ended up very good. And they're now, a lot of the guys are at the Juncos team and they're right there, but they still haven't won a race yet. You know, other new teams have always been kind of just at the precipice, but not quite been able to get in and dominate. I mean, even McLaren has come in and like I would have expected them to be more dominant than they are, but they're not able to quite dominate like Penske and Ganassi are. So there's a lot there. I don't know what the choice will be, but it definitely stirs up the market, and apparently, you know, that's not the last of what we're going to see. I think over the next few weeks. So yeah, very very interesting for sure.
I just know this much: if it's going to be the roller coaster that we've had, man, if we're foreseeing like where this moves to, I mean, there's still some loop-de-loops. There's definitely still some loop-de-loops to come. But I like your comment about the Prema Racing thing. I mean, you know, with Rossi being the driver, the caliper driver that he is, I see that potentially being something if he wants to go down that route. Maybe he's looking towards the bigger future. A little bit of speculation. Maybe he's looking towards a bigger future. Maybe he gets a little bit of piece of a team. Who knows?
Yeah, I know. Sorry, I just coughed, so my camera went crazy. But yeah, I have been feeling it over the last couple of days. We have been pushing ourselves to the absolute limit. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, the beanbag.
Actually, no. Before we get to the beanbag, there was also an Iowa test that happened. So let's kind of go over the Iowa test, because I want to mention that track is obviously repaved. So there is a lot of speed. I was actually blown away at the speeds. I don't know if people realize how fast they're going, but they're under the 17-second bracket now, which is like insane speed at Iowa. So clearly the new surface has given the cars a bit of juice. You're able to, what was so unique about Iowa was that it was just so bumpy and it was so sketchy and the surface was rough. Yes, obviously, but it just made it very difficult to drive. But now you've kind of eliminated some of those questions and some of those insecurities that you've got driving on the track. So, I mean, under 17-second laps are wild. I'm very curious to see what that does load-wise to the car, because it's a little bit heavier. There's obviously load limitations in the suspension pieces. I don't know if people actually know that sometimes, but the reason why we can't run certain higher amounts of downforce, like at, let's say, Nashville or Iowa, is because the suspension is really only built for a certain amount of load. So if you start to exceed those load limits, it becomes very difficult safety-wise. So the IndyCar tracks how much loading the uprights and everything go through to make sure that, hey, we're like, yes, this might be really fast, but these cars might be going too fast because they're now pushing the limits of the suspension, and you might see a failure. So that's, I think, what they were looking at Iowa. But, I mean, if they're going that fast, I'm curious to see what the tire degradation is like. More downforce and a ton of grip is good, but you'd hope that you could run that in lane 2 as well. So that'll be very, very interesting to see. Colton Herta was fastest. What a surprise. The guy is out there just ripping right now. So Colton Herta was fastest in the test. And he did a 16.954, and that was basically a second faster than Will Power's pole time, which is kind of wild. In a car that weighs approximately 100 pounds more than the car that Will Power did the pole time in. So that's really impressive. So Scott McLaughlin was second. Marcus Ericsson was third. And then Graham Rahal was fourth. That was good for them. Pato O'Ward fifth. Scott Dixon sixth. So Joseph Newgarden apparently had light contact with the wall. Pietro Fittipaldi crashed. Apparently there were all kinds of people having difficulties. Grosjean was in the wall again. And then Power crashed. So several crashes, which is interesting. Just must mean that the track still has not lost any of its difficulty, but it's probably just a little bit different of a difficulty with them smoothing a few things out. So cool to see some interesting quotes from the field as well. It's Graham. Well, Graham thinks that it leveled the playing field a little bit. I think that was Graham's quote, but it's that'll be very, very interesting. So I'm curious to see how that goes. I love Iowa, obviously. I would love to try the new surface. That would be something that would really make me happy. But that was kind of the recent Iowa test results. There were a couple cars testing in Milwaukee this week, but those are only the cars that missed the big test right after the Road America race. So I think you had the Juncos cars. Alex Rossi was testing at Milwaukee as well. So a little bit more laps done at Milwaukee to hopefully refine that product a little bit. But yeah, we also have a new driver to talk about. I know I was going to talk about the buses that I was racing and the vans that had trailers behind them, but I will get to that. Don't worry. Some real interesting activities for me over the weekend.
To say the least.
To say the least, indeed. But yeah, we have another new driver with Coin, Toby Sowery. If some of you are familiar with Toby Sowery's name, you've seen it in the Road to Indy. You've seen it in the Road to Indy classes. He's been through the ranks a little bit. He's kind of popped around to different teams here and there. He has tested for Rahal before in their IndyCar, but hasn't really, I guess, got the shot yet. He's been racing sports cars overseas. I know he was just at the 24 Hours of Spa in Belgium, so he was over there. So he's been doing a lot of that stuff. So he's definitely been active, but I know he's probably wanted to get a shot in IndyCar. And Dale Coyne is handing out shots right now, not really
serving them up.
There is funding. Like all these things cost money. Dale isn't selecting these folks to get in. I just want people to realize that it is cool for these folks to get a chance, but they're, this does come with a price per driver. So, but that's business, maybe. I mean, that's how it works. So, that's why we see what we're seeing. But I'm happy for him. Excited to see a new driver that at least I know. I did not know Luca Giotto really at all, but excited for Toby to get that chance. And I'm very curious. I mean, it's going to be a really difficult time to jump in as a first-time IndyCar driver. You're going to have all the hybrid stuff that you got to learn. You're going to have to do that with a team that hasn't got to do as much testing as some of the bigger teams. So, I mean, hey, kudos to you for giving it a shot. It's going to be a tough one, but that's why we get to watch, and I'm excited. I'm excited to see what happens this weekend. Honestly, I think it'll be pretty cool to to see who really just makes it work, makes the heavier car work, makes the powertrain system work as efficiently as possible.
If you could give a brief breakdown, I'm talking simple version of what this new engine does for anybody maybe that has been under the rock.
It's just an add-on
to the engine. So I got to watch a lot of the videos that IndyCar put out this past weekend. It was kind of talking about how Chevy and Honda came together. There's just these two components that are kind of fitting together to create that. You can turn that on and use that, from what I gathered. And is that at any point in the race?
Yeah. So, to be honest, I don't actually even know a ton about it myself. I've tried to dive into it and ask a little bit about what's going on, but the hybrid system changes your braking. It changes the way you'll be able to attack the corner, but also defend coming out of the corner. It's in addition to push to pass. So we still have push to pass, right? The regular turbo boost, pure engine speed. But you've also got now this hybrid deployment of power. So you have to generate this power via braking, off throttle time. That the braking though is what really generates the power for you to be able to use. At least I believe. Now this is just all pure me speculating because this is how we've seen hybrid systems work in the past. So there'll be. The brakes are different this year. I actually I think I mentioned it in the last show, but talked to the PFC folks. They had to design bigger brakes for the heavier car. So the brakes are bigger, designed for the heavier car. So your braking will be a little bit different, but you'll have to recharge energy to then deploy at any point during the lap. You can use it on the straight. You can use it all in one time. You could use it out of each corner. It's essentially an extra push to pass. And it will be limited. The amount of energy is limited, so you can only regen a certain amount and then deploy a certain amount. So I'm curious to see what it does. It's all about. We also have now onboard starters on the car, so that'll be something that's really cool. So if you see a car spin and they stall, I think it's a high likelihood that we won't see as many full course yellows because you're going to have cars able to refire themselves and just keep going. So
love that.
That could be really good for the racing. I think people might not know that yet, but I think that would be super helpful for our motor races.
So it sounds like Kinetic. It's push to pass sponsored by Kinetic Energy.
Something like that. Yeah. When you've got the push to pass, you can use both of them at the same time. So that is what I think would be very interesting. That's almost 100 horsepower boost, they said. So. Dude, that would be kind of crazy to see if you're just throwing out all the boost at the same time, boost and electric energy. I mean, we could see some passes happen, much easier than others, but then you don't have any energy for, maybe defending. So it could add an interesting element to attack and defense. Obviously when we have just push to pass, right? So you can get on it. The guy in front of you also will get on it to defend. But if he doesn't want to use his electric energy, you've got maybe an extra boost, but it's going to be interesting. I think there are multiple strategies on how to deploy it. But I'm very curious. So does that make sense at all?
I just want the data. I want to know who the big boosters are. I want to do big booster stat sheets. You know what I'm saying?
Who's using double boost? Yeah. Mm-hmm. That'd be cool though. I'm sure they will have a graphic, honestly. They definitely have to have a graphic for power deployment and stuff like that. I think that could be really cool.
Absolutely.
It'll be fun. So let me check through our notes here. Obviously the ratings for Laguna Seca were awful. We didn't get to talk about that because it was on CNBC. That is just, oh boy, that's just tough. It's tough. I didn't even think we were going to go there.
Let's just focus on
what
Fox, ratings?
Yeah. No, let's just focus on Fox next year.
Yeah.
We'll be all right. But some cool sports car racing news that kind of has to do with IndyCar is Meyer Shank returns to IMSA with Honda. So I think that was kind of always on the cards, but it was cool to see that officially happen. That for me, I'm going to be begging Mike Shank every week to drive that car for him next year because I love that organization, and I would do many things. I would do almost anything to get into an organization that he is running once again. I would do backflips on a dirt bike, yes, which currently did happen, so that was cool, but we'll talk about that. But yeah, the Meyer Shank team is going to be a great one. I assume we might see Tom Blomqvist back there, so I could see that happening. We've obviously, I think he's still probably under contract to Meyer Shank. I could see him slotting in there. There was lots of racing over the weekend, Nashville-wise. Joseph Newgarden, our guy, was the grand marshal for the NASCAR Cup race. I thought that was an interesting strategy. I don't know if you saw that, but yeah,
he said he wants to race Cup, dude. He said he wants to get in Bristol.
Yeah, all of us do at some point. We'd all like to give it a shot.
You got a leg up.
It was interesting to see him. I guess cool that NASCAR embraced him. It's obviously his hometown. He's a Nashville guy. But, good for us, maybe good for the series, but it's also kind of
100%.
It's still a bit of an odd vibe to me, but I'm glad that they did that for us and for him. I think that was cool. He looked the part, he looked swaggy, looked like a celebrity, and that's important, right?
That's it, dude. That's all you can ask for. I mean, the only other thing they could have done is they could have put him and Hardy in the pace car. I think if they would have put him and Hardy in the pace car together, like that's a combination you probably never would think you would see hanging out together at a restaurant. You walk in, there's Hardy and Joseph Newgarden, just broing out. They roll up in a pace car.
Maybe they're friends. I don't know.
They could be wall to wall. They still ain't sold out.
Exactly. So that's a bunch of the news. I'd like to maybe inform everyone on what I was doing over the week, and also hopefully say that we are looking at an announcement for maybe what I am doing next, probably next week. So this is obviously our Mid-Ohio preview show. We'll get to our picks a little bit later in the show, which I hope people enjoy that segment. I've enjoyed seeing how I love picking picks. I was a big fantasy sports guy. This is kind of like our fantasy sports lineup, but
yeah. We got to get the IndyCar fantasy app going strong. I want to see more people playing that going into 2025 for sure.
It's a good one. The IndyCar app actually has a good fantasy part, so it's pretty cool. But anyway, I was invited out to Michigan by the Channel 199 crew. The Channel 199 crew is an amazing group of people led by Travis Pastrana and a lot of great folks here. And I didn't really know what I was getting into when Travis said, do you want to come race? I was like, sure. didn't really know what it was. So when I got there and I saw the first night was vans. So, and I had a Chevy Trailblazer, an old Chevy Trailblazer. Had to spray paint it up, the polka dot number 24. Obviously felt proud to represent for polka dot at the Night of Destruction or whatever it was. So we got to do a cool little race. Producer Bobby was there as well. I got to hang out with producer Bobby. He was at the race.
That's huge.
That was Bobby. If you could come on camera here too, I'd like to get your outsider's perspective on what this looked like from your perspective, because we have an eyewitness. But the van race and what we were doing was all on dirt. So it was Hartford Speedway in the dirt. It was kind of raining, so it was kind of like terrible. But also not just an odd spectacle. There were about like 67 cars in this enduro race. That was like 199 laps. That lasted way too long. Cars that were, barely even vehicles. These cars barely knew how to survive. But we had a head-to-head van competition, one-on-one, one lap, and I was victorious. I'm not supposed to. We won't talk about any other results because they want to save that for the Channel 199 video. But I just want to give you a sneak peek. If you want to see me potentially win something, subscribe to the Channel 199 YouTube channel, and they're going to have an amazing video about it. So, Bobby, you were there in the stands. You were an eyewitness. What did you think of these idiots, of us dumb people racing these vans and random vehicles in the dirt?
It was like a demolition derby on an oval, if I could best describe it. Cars fitted. Definitely, if I would have saw any of these cars on the back of a trailer heading down the highway, I would think, okay, this car's heading for a county fairgrounds demolition derby.
Junkyard.
But then exactly. Yeah, it's on its way to its final destination. But then, they were raced on an oval for an true attempted 199 laps.
Yeah.
Which around Hartford Speedway being a 3/8 mile oval was in the mud, was a very long lap.
Yeah.
So definitely one of the longest dirt races I've ever attended in my long 30 plus years of going to dirt races. So I was actually surprised by that.
Shades of Ally 400.
It really was. Yeah. It was like, it was truly like a NASCAR dirt race. It was pretty spectacular.
That was funny. I was glad you got to see it, Dad. What did you think was the Van Prix at the end of the night? Was that the best one? Because at the end of the night, we had a Van Prix, and it was just the Channel 199 crew, about 8 or 9 of us in vans, just going nuts. And we had a Joker lap as well, and it was kind of crazy. What did you think of that?
Yeah, the Van Prix, I think, was like definitely the icing on the cake. I think there was like a lot of pent up like energy after everyone was kind of standing around anxiously awaiting the enduro race to finally be over.
Yes.
And then, I think that it was kind of confusing. At one point, you guys just started randomly going through the infield.
Yes.
So
that was our Joker
lap,
lap, turns out.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well,
I'm so jealous. I have FOMO so bad, and it's already gone. I saw all the pictures, and I'm just like, my God, like the one thing that I would have loved to have seen happen in real time, the boys got to be there, and I wasn't there. I'm going to get a van. I'm coming, dude. I'm coming.
Yeah.
I'm coming for Van Prix, dude. You put
The
me
Van
behind
Prix
a
was
van,
wild.
dude. I'm coming. I'm going to roll up like a guy.
I was going to say, you might think you need intense preparation, but really, Connor, yours was about right off the street. It seemed like there wasn't a ton of, aside from taking the back door off and maybe the side view mirrors, there really wasn't a lot of race preparation made in your car.
Yeah, I obviously had no mirrors. They somehow got lost. No rear trunk lid. No rear seats. There was a few things there, but it was, that was my Saturday night. It was definitely a bit absurd, but also it actually ended up being way more fun than I thought as well. So that was just Saturday night, Bobby. We appreciate you being there. That was really cool. We will not tell any results of any other races because we're saving that for Channel 199. But the next night, now this is night number 2, we went to Kalamazoo Speedway, which is another short oval, but this is pavement. So we went to a paved oval. And we were racing many different things as well. Again, these are all people that have brought us things to race. Travis and his crew, Jim York as well, has kind of organized all these things. And I get there and I'm like, well, there's a lot of old, beat up cars that have trailers attached to them, like actual, like, doesn't matter, like some have boats on them, some have like jet skis, some have like those like little mini camper trailers. I had like one of those things that like pops up into and it ends up being like a tiny version of a motorhome type thing.
Oh, you had a pop-up camper.
Yeah, like a little pop-up camper.
All right.
And then a bunch of school buses. So there were a bunch of school buses also, about 8 school buses that also had trailers with boats on them. And those were our racing vehicles. So these are I know this is an IndyCar podcast, but guess what? This is also my show, so I can talk about what I was racing as well.
It's a racing show.
It's a racing show. So that was kind of a crazy experience. We had this thing called a flagpole race, which is a race where you're in basically just a bunch of beat up cars. I had a Buick LaCrosse. I was in a Buick LaCrosse. Yeah, it was it had a ton of mileage on it. Yeah, you got the Buick hat on right now.
A support.
There were a lot of insects crawling inside. It looked like it had bad water, a lot of moss. There was moss on the door hinges. So definitely was not built for speed, I would say, but it was reliable. It had basically no other seats either. It smelled bad. I had to put stickers on it. But that was my first race vehicle for the flagpole race, and so we would use the oval, but there would be giant tires that we'd have to turn around, like a full circle around, and then continue. So you'd like go, do a circle around the tire, and then go to the next tire, do a circle around that. Kind of crazy. Cool concept though. But that was definitely more destructive than I would have thought. I didn't really know the rules, so I thought I was gonna. Again, we won't say the results, but I didn't know the rules. I will say that. Apparently there were rules. There were a couple people. I don't like when. There were a couple of folks that got to be in the race that were just kind of, I think, locals, and they definitely got a little bit more destructive than those who probably were trying to save their bodies for like real jobs later in the year, real racing jobs. So that got interesting, but we did some flagpole racing. Then we went into the trailer race. The trailer race was going well, and then apparently my trailer just flew away. Someone got a video of it, and they posted it on Instagram. I put it on my story, which is really funny. But I thought I was about getting to the lead, and then my trailer just flew away. I was going through the corner trying to carry some speed, and the trailer just popped off the back of my car and flew away.
Did it roll, or did it like hit anybody? What happened?
It just literally went it was just like straight into the wall. Like it popped off the trailer hitch and just went straight. It's one of those like slow videos of like this flying trailer by itself straight into the wall. So
we love
that was
those
kind of
videos.
Funny. We got to see some crazy jumps, cars doing like wild jumps and stuff. But you'll be able to see it all on Channel 199, their YouTube channel. So that'll be really, really cool. And then we got to race a school bus. I've never raced a school bus before. Got in this bus. I've never driven even a bus before, or like a truck. Nothing with air brakes. That was kind of a crazy experience. It was definitely the slowest race I've ever done. Like there's no way we even got to like 55 miles an hour. Like I don't even know if we got to 60 miles. But
bring out your inner snowman. Are you thinking about doing semis next? You want to race some semis?
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't know if it was for me, but it definitely was something that I can now say that I've done. And why not? So, all right. So after bus racing, we went to the Pastranaland campus in Maryland, Annapolis, Maryland. What an amazing place. This is honestly like heaven on earth. I think it's the coolest opportunity to ever get to be here and to be with the people that are here. And again, working on some really cool stuff that you will see via Channel 199. There's a lot of stuff on the Instagram channels. We did some stuff with TNT Fireworks. It's been awesome. We have a lot of basically like Olympic games that we've been doing. It's kind of in honor of the Olympics, but it's been a lot of fun. And I am like, it's just an awesome place to be. It's truly the coolest place on the planet. I did my first backflip. On a dirt bike.
It's a big moment.
That might have been, yeah. Some people are saying that, hey, maybe that was silly of me. Maybe that was dumb. But I wanted to give it a try, and I feel like everyone has to give it a try while they're here. And for me, it was one of the most satisfying things. Like when you get to do something like that, it's insane. It's the adrenaline rush is absurd. And I was blown away by the support here. And I had, I mean, it was crazy. Would you try it? Would you try a backflip, Chase?
Dude, 100%. The whole squad was lit too, from what I saw. I don't know if you're gonna. I mean, I know you posted the video, but the whole squad seemed like they were lit about it. I've done backflips on a BMX bike once, but I mean, I didn't do it into a foam pit. I did it basically like off of a ledge, and fortunately, didn't break any bones. But it was a close call. I did get a fracture. But that was you used to watch Matt Hoffman, just do crazy things coming up, and I was like, big Tony Hawk, Matt Hoffman, Bam Margera guy, I wanna get a little wild with it. So who can blame one for wanting to get a little wild with it?
Yeah.
I mean, you did that this weekend, and when you're there, like I feel like when you're with Travis, like I've never met Travis, you've known Travis for a very long time. Do hope to meet him at some point, but I as a guy that grew up watching Travis, on a lot of his shows that he did, it's like you can't go there and not do those types of things. It's like It's just it's a very
motivational area, very motivational group. Yeah, I did. It did take me. I did it on the third try, so I did have to try it once.
Oh, where are the other videos?
Didn't quite get it all the way around. Had to try it a second time, went higher, but still didn't quite get the full flip. And then thankfully it was on the third try. I was able to get it. So that was kind of crazy. But yeah, what a wild place, man. A lot of cool things. I don't want to say too much about what we've been doing because I want to make sure people tune in to check it out. But
I think it's better to let people's imaginations run wild because there's a lot of different things.
One of the races that we did was a bar stool race. So like these are like $600 bar stools, like these well-built bar stools. And we were going down basically a steep hill in them. So that was kind of crazy. Full body armor, everything, like all kinds of stuff. No turns because we couldn't really turn it, but just down a hill.
Oh, and my goodness.
The hill had a bit of a turn, so that kind of made things a bit crazy. But lots of fun events. We had a pit bike race, little mini dirt bikes.
Oh yeah,
had a couple different things. So I'm going to let everyone kind of stay tuned to that. But Pastranaland has been amazing. I'm still here now, and I think we'll be doing a little bit more stuff today, and then I fly back to Indy tomorrow morning. So I will be at Mid Ohio though. I will be going there for at least Saturday to just check out the vibes, see what's going on a little bit, because I think that's important. But yeah, what a wild time. If you want to see my backflip, it's on my Instagram, it's on my TikTok, YouTube, all that stuff. It was, it's been an amazing time. I was hoping that maybe some of the guys might pop onto the show here. That might be our guest segment, but, everyone I think is still asleep. So I had to do this show. It's been tough it's tough. I feel bad because I feel like I've been pretty religious about doing this show on Tuesdays and I've been good about it, but like this has been a truly different week in my life.
This is a different way. You don't have to apologize for that. This is a huge week. I'm sure everyone listening to this understands if they were in Pastranaland right now.
Yeah, it's been a busy few days. Busy last like week and a half. I've only been home. I've been home one day in like 2.5 weeks, so like I haven't had a chance to plan. We were gonna try to get a guest this week, but didn't really hear back from them. And then I just didn't get a chance to fully think it through. So that's on me. I will do better for the next off week show. And hopefully people will agree to be on, but yeah, as of now, I think we kind of went through most of everything. And we can kind of wrap the show up here sooner rather than later. So, my voice is in a terrible spot right now. I need to like go take Dayquil and stuff. Yeah, it's a lot of voices lost. Yeah, all kinds of stuff. But I I kind of wanted to get, like, we haven't done our little 4 minutes of fun segment here in a little while. And I was, we did a segment that, now again, some people might have listened to this, some people might not have heard this because it was only done a couple times, but I put 4 minutes on the clock for the four-time Indy 500 champions. We respect the four-time Indy 500 champions. And so we were going to do 4 minutes of fun for them. I wanted to explain the Delta story that I had. And so I'm gonna do that in my 4 minutes of fun segment because I have a lot of funny things to chat about. So I'm gonna start the stopwatch. I'm gonna start it, and Chase, you can go as well. Boom. 4 minutes is going. We're only gonna talk about random stuff for 4 minutes, but I put out a tweet about my airline experience recently. I was on a Delta flight back to Indianapolis, and it was Burbank, Atlanta, Indianapolis, and my flight out of Burbank was a little bit delayed. It was we were late getting on. They just late. Everything was just a little bit late. Now my connection was going to be a little bit tight already, but it should have been about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour in between flights. But when we landed in Atlanta, I don't know if the plane had gone slow enough or if we were just on the runway a long time in Burbank. But we landed late, and so I had to hustle to the next gate. So I was like, okay, I got to run. Like this is going to be somewhere I got to run. I want to get home. Like I really need to get home instead of waiting for another flight later or even the next day. So I'm getting there, and I normally fly American and Southwest. Like those are the two that I pretty much stick to. And I've been definitely close before, but like I don't like. Apparently there's rule now. I'll explain. Airline Twitter is a wild place. Like I got to tell you about airline Twitter, but I was getting to the gate exactly 11 minutes before departure. So the scheduled departure time. So I as I approached the gate, I stopped running because there's a line of people still checking their boarding passes. Now I've been the last person on the plane many times before, and I've got there and I'm like, oh yeah, cool, welcome, here you go. But this time was a little bit different, and I don't know if it's just because I haven't flown a different airline in a while. Like I'm a Delta, like I've got like hundreds of thousands of miles on Delta. I've flown Delta for a long time, but yeah, I just haven't. I guess haven't flown them recently. And I get to the gate. I'm looking at it. One person scans in front of me, and then there was a lady there, literally looked me in the face and was like, "Yeah, no, we're done boarding." And I was like, "I'm sorry." I was like, I mean, this is my boarding. I have to go down there with those people. Like, this is my flight." And she's like, "No, we closed 10 minutes prior to departure." I was like, "But it's not that. Like, it's not 10 minutes. So we have at least a minute and a half. Like, that is not true." And I was so blown away because she was also might have been the rudest person I've ever come across in my entire history of like literally a person that did not care at all that you were trying to get home, or like, I bet if I had like blood hanging out of my face or like I was a medical emergency, she would have been like, nah. Like this is a person that did not really care to help me at all. And it was something that was one of the most astounding things I've ever seen. So I was like still kind of asking a question, like, wait, so I can't get on this flight? Like, how does that work? And there are all kinds of FAA rules or whatever it is. Like, you have to be, they start giving away seats like 15 minutes before the flight departs. And I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense at all. I feel like all the other people are supposed to follow FAA rules too, right? But it was one of those things that was very, very, very interesting. So that was about my 4 minutes on the clock. One thing that I found out too, airline Twitter is absurd. Airline Twitter, they came after me, bunch of random people that I don't follow at all, like telling me about rules and weird stuff. And I was like, dude, just telling me to stop complaining and stuff like that. I was like, dude, I think any person in that scenario, when they see a goal of like getting on their plane to get home and then being told and have the door shut in their eye sockets, I think anyone would be mad. Like, it's like, oh,
yeah.
All right. So that was a wild experience for me.
Sounds like you met Trisha. There's a girl named Trisha. She works at Party City in New Orleans. She's like that. If you get there 5 minutes before they close, you need balloons or something, like you're out, dude. Like, you're not going to be able to get in there. It's definitely probably related. But yeah, that's a tragedy. I've come very close to it. Like, I'm not one of those people. I don't really get awkward or embarrassed. Yeah. So like,
and I want to let people know too. Like, I understand probably working at the airline is difficult, and I fly every week. So like, I'm not. That was like my first ever tweet about complaining about airlines. Like, Tony Kanaan tweets about complains about airlines every week on Twitter. So like,
everybody,
I know that it's tough. I get that it's the delays are difficulty, but like, it was the pure human disrespect where I was like, what in the world happened here? So that was just something that I feel like I had to share, because I was actually laughing. I thought it was a bit. I thought I was a part of some comedic sketch because it was so astounding. And turns out, joke's on me. I didn't get home till like 1 a.m. that night because I got on the last flight out of Atlanta back to Indy. So that was a challenge. So anyway, I went way over my 4 minutes, but we also had a delay because people were walking in this room. So Bobby's going to have a great time editing this show as well.
It's going to be a great edit.
Yeah, it's going to be a great edit. But I also had like, I randomly recently got into Facebook comments, and never go there.
Don't do that.
It's still the worst place, I believe, on the internet is Facebook comments. I've never seen people who think they know more than they do. Or they think that they know more than anyone else.
Yeah.
And it's like, guys, come on. Like, be open to maybe thinking that you might not know like what the answer is. And I try to respond sometimes, which is a bad idea. But like, there was a couple people that I just saw, like, once I started to like go into different things, I'm like, just guys, if you're going to Facebook comment, let's say like real information, and like maybe stuff that is like based on facts, or like maybe just I don't know. It's kind of a scary place. So anyway,
Facebook privilege is a real thing.
Yeah,
people have it. People do have it, but I think that was a good 8 minutes of fun.
Sorry.
It's an 8 minutes
would you
of fun.
Would you like to mention anything, Chase? Mention anything before we get to the random 8500 driver of the week?
Mine might not take 4 minutes, but it is 4. So I want to just give you, it's a big week. It's 4th of July week. You're listening to this. We're approaching 4th of July. If you're like me, you like to, man the grill or woman the grill on a good 4th of July day. It's on a Thursday, which is kind of strange. It's always kind of weird. I never really think about it. Feels like a weekend thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like you want it to be a weekend thing, but one thing you can't do without is the dogs. Hot dogs. It's a big day for hot dogs. All right, if you're
big day for hot dogs.
Yeah, you might never eat a hot dog like all year long. This is the day you want to go in the direction of the dogs. So I wanted to give 4 types of hot dogs that you can cook on 4th of July day on the grill.
Okay.
Some of these are my own personal recipe. Some of these are, some that everyone knows. But we'll start it off with an all-time classic. Number 1, the All-American dog. This is a great dog. This is the one that started it all. This is the one that you got in the ballpark. All you got to do, get you a nice frank, get you a nice little bun. You want to put a little bit of mustard, a little bit of, I like sweet relish. And the hot dog gods in Chicago may not approve of ketchup on hot dogs. They may not want it. But a little bit of ketchup and mustard with some sweet relish on top, that's a good All-American dog. So that's one of them. That's one. Number 2 is got to be the Chicago dog. Everyone knows about the Chicago dogs, the frank, the pepper. You got a little bit of pepper on the bun. You want to put a little bit of mustard on that thing. Something about the pepper really just sends it. A little bit of onion maybe. That's another good dog. The third dog, kind of a hometown exclusive. If you're from the South like me, in the Louisiana, New Orleans area, we like spicy foods. I recommend the Cajun dog. This is a dog that I created.
I didn't know there was a Cajun dog.
A Cajun dog is the way. And let me tell you get you a nice frank. You want to get your bun. Now, instead of going just traditional mustard, you want to go a little bit of Creole mustard on there. If you're not familiar with Creole mustard, it's kind of like a brown mustard, a little bit of seeded mustard, a little poppy seed in there, something like that. But the Creole mustard is really good to put up on the top. And then, just for the right twang, a little bit of barbecue sauce with that Creole. Really sends it, telling you. And the fourth dog, this is a kind of a sloppy dog, but this is what I call the Mississippi dog. You just get you a Frank, a bun, and just pour beer on it. And that right there is the Mississippi dog. And so those are 4 hot dogs that you can make on 4th of July, brought to you by Speed Street and me, a dog connoisseur. Chase.
I love that. Dog connoisseur. I did have a hot dog yesterday. I'm not gonna lie. We had some fresh meats here cooked. It was not just a low level hot dog. It was very good, like sausage style. It was very delicious. So I had a good one. All right, with that, let's wrap up the show. People are starting to get here to the house, to the race shop now. So I got to make sure that I'm not, chaos is going to start to ensue. And we want to get this show up, so you guys can listen to it today or hopefully as soon as possible. But, let's get to the random Ricky Treadway, random Indy 500 driver of the week.
The greatest event of its kind has never been run on.
Let's meet the drivers. We'll make up the field.
All right, so this week I went to 1939. I went to the 1939 Indy 500. And I went to a person that I honestly thought we had on this segment before, but we have not. Ira Hall. Ira Hall finished 24th in the Indy 500 in 1939. Ira Hall.
It's like a roll call for Ira.
Ira, yeah. So Hall had several starts in the Indy 500. His greatest fame was gained on the dirt tracks in the Midwest. He reportedly won as many as 100 races in a season on what was known as the suicide circuit. That sounds absurd.
Sounds like sounds like something at Pastranaland.
Yeah, that's kind of wild. But that's crazy. So he was also later elected sheriff of Vigo County, Indiana. That's kind of wild. Also a policeman. I respect that. Several Indy 500s to his name, 1928, 1932, 33, 38, and 39. So several separated Indy 500s. Pretty interesting to have probably been in that era. So Ira Hall lived a long life, lived 95 years, was born in 1892 and died in 1987. So man, that's lived quite a life. So
he's like our counterpart, being born. Yeah. We were 92, I think. And then I was 92. He was 82, but 1892.
1892, yeah.
Numbers can be hard, especially in different centuries. But no, Ira, shout out to the sheriff, dude.
Yeah. Wait. Before we go, we have to give picks.
That's
right.
I
really forgot. Okay. I'm sure everyone's like, wait, where are your picks? They're going to be right here. So let's give some picks for the Mid-Ohio race coming up this weekend. I want to make sure we get the TV information right as well. For Mid-Ohio. But Chase, would you like to go first with your picks? Hang on, I have it right here. Sunday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern on NBC and Peacock. So that's what we have. The Honda 200, Sunday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern on NBC. Big NBC again, not hard to find. Hopefully we don't get bumped to CNBC or some other channel that no one knows exists. And then, we'll see how it goes. So let's give a couple picks before we wrap up the show. Chase, would you like to go first?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm taking a look. So we have a lot of changes coming this weekend. Everyone knows that with the new hybrid unit being put into place, really the biggest change out here at Mid-Ohio. But just kind of taking a look back at 2023, we know that Alex Palou won this race last year. Scott Dixon, Will Powerboat on the pole. The Penske guys, a little bit of Chip Ganassi up there. So just like last year, I'm expecting both of those teams, Penske and Chip Ganassi, to kind of be leading the forefront this week when we're looking at who to turn to for a podium or just for guys that we think can get it done with this new tech. For me, number one, I've got to go in strong. I want to go with a veteran, and I want to go with somebody that's on one of those teams. I'm going with Will Power as one of my picks.
All right.
He did finish here third last year. I do think that we will see him inside that top 3 or potentially winning this race. One of the old dogs. You know, you don't need to teach new tricks. You don't need to worry about the hybrid unit. I'm on there with Will Power again. I feel like things are cooking up. Another guy that we did see that was in the top 3 is going to be Scott Dixon, another veteran, another guy that's seen a lot of changes in this sport. Those guys can adapt to these things usually pretty quickly. So I think Scott Dixon has another great shot this week. So with Will Power, Scott Dixon, my last pick, obviously, I'm going with Colton Herta. He's coming out of Iowa. He had a good run. He's feeling good. He's got it. He's got all the gas up. I feel like we have been leading up to just bigger and better every week. And after the last race, just kind of like watching how that marched up, I can see it coming, Connor. I see it coming. I feel like a win is on the way. So Will Power, Scott Dixon, Colton Herta, that is my 3 picks for Mid-Ohio.
I respect that. So I think the most logical thing, like if you wanted to have a safe bet, it's a Penske podium sweep because they have got to do the most time with the hybrid unit. And I think it's hard to go up against the people that have the experience with it. I don't want to be basic and just be like, oh, I'm going to do all 3 Penskes, but I'm going to put at least 2 there. I'm going to go with Joseph Newgarden bouncing back, and I'm going to go with Scott McLaughlin. And then for my third, again, I want to pick a Ganassi. I want to pick one so bad, but I feel like this should also be fun. So I'm going to go with Christian Lundgaard as well. I'm going to go with Christian Lundgaard. That's my third pick. Lundgaard's going to show up and try to fight the Penskes. That's what I'm going to go with.
He had a big week. He had a big announcement.
Yeah, big week. Now, hopefully the team still gives him all the opportunities to still be good. Sometimes when you sign for a new operation, maybe there's a little bit of beef and it's like, we don't want him doing as well now. Who knows? Hopefully that's not the case. But anyway, that's our show for the week. I got to get out of here because chaos is about to ensue and I don't want to take up anyone's space and I don't want to make sure everyone's quiet. We want to be loud here. We want to be excited. So appreciate you guys listening to Speed Street. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Listen in on any podcast platform that you can listen in on. And make sure to watch Mid-Ohio this weekend because it's going to be a great race. So we appreciate you guys.
Hey everyone, Connor Daly here. Please leave a like on this video if you did enjoy it, and also subscribe to the channel as well. That would be very helpful. Be a friend, tell a friend. Thank you so much for the support, and we'll see you on the next episode of Speed Street.